So far, I think we have covered quite a lot. We have covered up to this. Now, today I will cover this section, which is submission to a journal and predatory journal. So these are the two things, and I will not take much time today, I think. So let's start. Go to the didn't have time to update this. So anyway, this is not valid anymore. So these are the topics: submission to journals and dealing with reviewers. The first topic is submission to journal. Now, I expect that all of you will write your manuscript, and then this manuscript needs to be submitted to a journal. Normally, the place where I worked, we encouraged the student to do this because our job here is to train you to become an independent researcher. So that is why all students should do it. Of course, they will need help from the supervisor. So with supervisor's help, they should go through this process of submission to a journal and dealing with reviewers. Now, how do you do this? That is the question. The first thing you have to do to consider whether your paper is worthy of publication, whether editor will consider this as a good enough work to be published. And before you do that, even, you have to select the right journal. So that is the first thing. In fact, it is recommended that you select the journal even before you start writing or at the early stage of writing. And how do you select a journal? There are a few things you may use as tips. First of all, obviously, you have to read the scope of journal. And there will be guide for authors, a section that you have to read very, very carefully. And the content of your manuscript must match the scope of the journal you are targeting. The quality of your paper must be high enough. And the quality in terms of the methods that you have used, in terms of the research design, in terms of the writing, in terms of the results that you obtained. So all these will help you to publish if the quality is high. Another thing that you have to remember, that your paper will be published in high impact journals like Q1 journals only when you show that they are new, they are novel. And just being new is not enough. You also have to show that this is significant. It has benefit. It has benefit to the academia or to the industry, or both, or to the society in general. So if you could do that, it matches the scope of the journal, its quality is high, it's novel, it's significant, then the chances of your paper being accepted is high. If you want to define a good research paper, there are three basic things you have to consider. One is it must contain good science. It must be written in a good way, and you must publish it in a good journal. Only then people will consider this as a good research paper. As for good science, the first thing, preliminary thing, is that it has to be new. It has to be something that others have not done already. So you have to make this sure. The second thing is that it's not just the description of the result that you obtained. In addition to the description, you have to try to explain them from mechanistic point of view. So what is the mechanism involved when you change one parameter? Why one parameter is dependent on another in a particular fashion? So you have to give those kind of explanation from based on the fundamentals, based on the first principles, based on the theory. So if you can have both novelty and in-depth mechanistic discussion of the phenomena that you have discovered, then I think that will be considered as good science. As for the good journal, I think we have seen already, it is basically accepted by most people that if the impact factor of a journal is high, then it is a good journal. In addition to that, there are some other indicators as well. So there are some professional societies, international professional societies, who have journals which can have low impact factor, but those are also considered as a very good journals. For instance, the journals published by IMECI or IEEE or TMS. So those journals are usually of high ranking or considered to be good journals, although the impact factor may not necessarily be very high. So you have to talk with your supervisor, consult with him or her in order to find out which journal you want to target. And there are a few strategies you should be familiar with. Which journal is relevant to you for your publication. So first you check your own manuscript and look at the list of the papers that you have cited. And if you have cited papers from one particular journal in large numbers, in 2, 3, 4, then probably that journal is relevant to you for your publication. You also see, and I think this is your duty at the beginning, to find out who are the best scientists, best academics in your area, best researchers, and then track them, track their publication and see where do they publish, what are the journals the best scientists in your area are publishing. And those are likely to be the journal that you should target. And as I mentioned, you have to read the scope of the journals in the journal introductory pages where they describe guide to authors. You can also look at the journals, go through the table of contents, look at the titles, look at the articles inside, and then based on all this information, you will be able to target a few journals for your paper, for your manuscript. And with this list, you go to the supervisor and then get his opinion about which one you should target first. There is another way that you can do it. So Elsevier has one journal finder platform. And there you can put your abstract in. You can paste your abstract. And based on this information, they have this AI platform that will suggest you which Elsevier journal you can target. So this is free, and all of you should try that. So once you submitted your journal to a particular, your paper to a particular journal, and this is a typical process that it will go through. So you have submitted your manuscript and it will go to the editor. Editor will assign the manuscript to reviewers. And a reviewer will do the review. They will send the review result to the editor. Editor will now look at the review results, and if he is convinced to proceed further or not to proceed further, he will take his action accordingly. So if he sees that the opinion of the reviewers are not favorable, and he also thinks, the editor himself or herself thinks that the reviewers are correct, so he will just reject the paper, which means that it goes back to you, and then you have to look at it again with some very close eyes and try to improve it. On the other hand, if you are lucky, then the reviewer may tell you that you have to do this revision based on the comments made by the reviewers. So the editor will tell you. And those comments can be minor comments, can be major comments, and so on. So you have to do the revision properly and then resubmit it to the editor. Editor will now look into your action, your response, compared with the comments of the reviewers. And if he is happy with this, if he thinks that you have done what you are supposed to do, then he will accept it. However, if he sees that there are still some problem and he is not confident that he can make a decision, so he will send it back to the reviewers, to the same reviewers, or he can send to another reviewer. And of course, if the reviewers accept it, so you get the acceptance. If not, it is rejected and goes down to yourself again. So this is how things happen when you submit your manuscript. And if the manuscript is good enough for that particular journal, obviously it will be accepted. Now I give you a statistics, it may be a little bit old, but still I think by and large, it's good enough for our purpose. So this is a statistics coming from Elsevier. So based on all the journals that you have, so I think you know that this is one of the most prestigious publishing house, scientific publishing house. So they showed their statistics. Let us consider this one, that all the papers that are submitted from US, almost half of them are rejected and half of them are accepted. They compared this with papers coming from China. They see that 1/4 of the paper are accepted and 3/4 are rejected based on the reviewer's assessment. So this is what they do. And this is the average. Now, in our case, papers going from Bangladesh, probably it will be even lower. So we need to consider this right from the beginning. So unless we put a lot of effort to improve the quality of our paper, then it may be difficult to publish in good journals. But of course, statistics being statistics, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will be unsuccessful. This is average of everything. And we want to believe that all of you are able to be within this. So you have the ability to publish in those journals. And this will happen when you are determined, when you are motivated, when you put a lot of efforts into this business. These are some of the reasons why manuscripts are rejected. It's a summary. So first of all, if you don't submit your journal to the appropriate, submit your manuscript to the appropriate journal, it's very likely that you will get it rejected at a very early stage. If you work on something for which a lot of things have been done already, So you can only say that I have obtained this result, and this result was obtained by others before. So my result confirms the result of others. If you have this type of scientific result, then it's very likely that it will be rejected by good journals. As I mentioned, we have to have something new. Also, if your research design is poor and based on which you are not able to make any conclusion with sufficient evidence, so which means that overall the study design was not good, then your paper is likely to be rejected. That means you did not think about your overall aims, objectives, hypothesis, research questions. So all those were not thought about in detail, then you may face this problem. English is not good enough. You may have good science, but if you write it poorly, your language is so poor that others cannot understand, then it is likely that it will be rejected, even though you may have done a good job in terms of science. Some specific reasons why a paper is accepted. So this was a survey done among 85 editors of scientific journals. So one of the major reasons why the paper is rejected is that the authors did not send it to the right journal. So please be careful. So choose your journal very, very carefully. Another major reason is that it doesn't have enough significance. Probably it's not good enough, novel enough, it's not useful, it's very rudimentary, it's on the surface. So that is why it is not accepted. Questionable validity. So it is involved in the wrong design of the experiments, perhaps. So your experiment is not thoughtful enough. You didn't show that your proof that your results are valid. So all these things will lead to rejection. It is too shallow. You have some results, you describe them, but you didn't go into the detail in explaining them, what exactly it is. How does it make sense in an overall scientific context? Sometimes if it is too lengthy, then it may be rejected, particularly nowadays. So since the journal space is very, very costly, and many people are competing to publish their journals, so the editors nowadays don't tend to accept long papers. So you have to pay special attention to this. And a length of about 6 to 8 pages is all right. If you go beyond 8 pages approximately, then it may be difficult in some journals. So you have to see the scope of the journals as well. Bad organization. Your writing style is not good. It's difficult to read. It's difficult to understand. It's difficult to follow the storyline, the logic. The papers are consisted of unconnected islands of paragraphs after paragraphs. They don't have any links. They do not say a seamless story. So these are the reasons why a paper, a manuscript can be rejected. So this is the suggestion based on what we have discussed. Elsevier is telling you, submit your paper to the right journal. If you cannot find the right journal, talk with your supervisor and find it. And when you submit your result, your paper, submit it to one journal only. It's very, very, you cannot publish, you cannot send your manuscript to more than one journal simultaneously. It's considered to be unethical in scientific, in research. English has to be good. So that's what Elsevier is emphasizing. And they're suggesting you that try to read guidelines for authors in the journal, and you have to be honest all the time in all aspects. Sometimes some journal will ask you to suggest some reviewers for reviewing your journal. If they ask you, then you have to be a bit careful about it, because they will like to see reviewers from at least 2 different regions of the world. So you cannot send the names of few reviewers from the same country, so they may not be accepted. Some additional points, I think I have discussed this already. And when you write your paper, you have to write in a way that follows some consistent format, consistent style. And a manuscript is usually written in double line spacing, and the font size is typically 12. One thing I have to emphasize here is about your name. So you are an early career researcher, and if you continue along this line, so you will publish many papers in the future. Now, if you change your name, then other people may find it difficult to locate you, to find you. So it's important that you write your name consistently right from the beginning when you publish the first paper, and then use the same style in your name writing for the rest of your life, so that there is no confusion. So one extreme example shown by Elsevier here is about Chinese names. So they can write the same name in many different forms. So these kind of things are not preferable. So please write your name and then stick to that style for the rest of your academic life. I think I'll skip this. Now, there are 2 things you can do your submission in 2 ways. In the first way, you prepare your manuscript without much care. You just do it in a hurry, in a sloppy manner. And then when you submit it, it goes to the editor, does the review, if you're lucky, and then it gets rejected. Maybe it takes about 4 to 6 months. And once you get the rejection, you don't care. You send it to another journal as is, without looking into the comments of the reviewers, without making any attempts to improve it. You just send the original manuscript. Again, it gets rejected, and so on. And you sink into despair. You become frustrated. So that is one way. Consider the second way. You are serious about your paper. You put a lot of efforts to write the manuscript. And once you put a lot of efforts in the manuscript, it's highly likely that it's a good quality paper, good quality manuscript. It goes to the editor. You selected the right journal. So you get the first decision, acceptance, hopefully, with some revision, and then you revise them very carefully. You follow the time limit that is imposed by the editor, and then you get it accepted. So you have to decide which process you want to take. So obviously, our advice, I think any decent man will advise you, you better take the second route. You better adopt the second procedure. Do it very carefully so that there is a little chance it will be rejected. When you submit a manuscript, cover letter is a part of it. So you have to write a cover letter to the editor. And this cover letter is important because the editor will read it And based on this reading, he will try to form his opinion about your paper. So that is why it's important that you write your cover letter. So it is highly recommended that you do the practice, because you are going to be an academic or a researcher, and unless you do this practice, so you are not utilizing your time in the university in a fruitful manner. Of course, at the beginning, you will not be so confident. So prepare the letter and talk to your supervisor and get it corrected by him, or get it updated and improved by your supervisor. And in that letter, you have to identify, you have to show or demonstrate at least two things. In some cases, you may have to add some more. I will talk about it in a moment. But at least two important things must be very, very clear on the letter. So first of all, you talk about originality of your work, which means that you highlight the novelty of the work. Second thing is, what are the most important points, most important findings, why they are significant, why they are useful, why they are beneficial. So at least these 2 points must be there in a very, very clear manner in the cover letter. Otherwise, the editor may not even read your paper. Remember, there are hundreds of thousands of papers are submitted to good journals, so they don't have much time. And that is why they have this acceptance rejection criteria, which are very, very strict nowadays. So even a bad cover letter can give you a rejection. So the cover letter will not be the same for all cases. You have to write in a way which is relevant to that particular journal. There are a few things which are suggested here that can be included in the cover letter, but you don't have to include each and every one of them. This list shows that you have to tell why the topic is important, why the results are significant, and what is the new things that you have found out, what are the key results, and how does your work advances your field. So which means that you have to give a sense that there was a limitation in the current literature and your work has overcome that limitation. It has come up with something new. Sometimes to justify the submission to a particular manuscript, to a particular journal, you may have to explain it, why you think your journal is suitable, your manuscript is suitable for this journal. It may be necessary in some cases if your subject matter is on the sideline of the journal. I think these are the main thing. You may also provide some reviewers if that journal asks you to do. Overall, your cover letter should be as short as possible, because editors are very, very busy people. They don't have time. So if it is long, they may just overlook this. So obviously it mustn't be longer than 1 page, but not even 1 page, just 1 paragraph. If you could write all those important points that you want to highlight in 1 paragraph, then I think that is a good cover letter. So to summarize once again, what should be in the cover letter? These are the few things. You tell the problem that you are trying to solve. You talk about the novelty of the work. You talk about the benefit of the work. And then you also say how your manuscript fits into the journal. Because this is becoming more and more important. I will not look into that. Dealing with reviewers. So you understood the process of this publication. So you send your paper to an editor of a journal. The editor will send it to the experts who will read your paper for free. And this is how science is working. So these reviewers are considered to be experts in your field, and they will read your paper and they will give their opinion about the paper. Now, at times you may see them as having this role. So they are trying to stop you from publishing at all cost. And you have to overcome them. So you have to bypass them or convince them that you have enough quality so that the paper is accepted. These reviewers, when they will read your paper, they will first see why you have done that particular work. What is the motivation behind this work? And you will also see, is it important? The work that you have undertaken, does it have much value? You look for the originality or novelty of the work. He or she will also see the conclusion and then compare the conclusion with the data that you have submitted and discussed in the body of the paper. If he feels that the conclusions are not supported by the data that you have generated, then they will not be happy. They may also look into some ethical questions. They will see if there is any flaws or mistakes. They will obviously see how you have written the paper. Is it good enough? Is it easy to read, easy to understand? All right, at this stage, let me stop this and get you into the picture. So let me see who is there today. So I want your opinion. If you have submitted any manuscript yet, is there anybody who have submitted a manuscript? Or one of your paper has been submitted by your supervisor, perhaps? Anybody? And before I start again, has anybody submitted a paper? Anybody? No, there is no response. In that case, should we go to this? I have to engage somebody. I see somebody by the name of Siddiq. Siddiq, tell me about your experience with manuscript writing. Do you have any or you don't have any yet? Siddiq. Are you there, Siddiq? Is Siddiq there?
Sir.
Yes, Siddiq. Have you? If not, are you thinking of what stage of? I think Siddiq has left.
Sir, please.
I think Siddiq has left. Anyway, see Abu Sadat. Abu Sadat, what do you think? Abu Sadat Muhammad Saim Rahman. Anything you want to say about paper writing so far? Abu Sadat.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Tell me about your experience or your thought about paper writing.
Sir, I only wrote one paper. I just wrote the conference paper in IEEE.
Oh, that's great. So you already have written one paper and you presented it to IEEE conference.
Yes, yes. And I presented in IEEE conference in Bangladesh, basically.
Okay, now you want to upgrade the paper and submit it to a journal, I assume.
Yes, yes.
Then I think you should do this. I think this is a good pathway. So if you are new, I think this is a good step. So first you go and write the paper and then send it to a conference, because conference papers are usually not so rigorously reviewed. So you have a chance to present it to before an audience and you get the feedback, and then you, based on the feedback, then you improve this paper, add new things, make it a little bit bigger, add new discussion, then you can increase the chances of it being accepted. I think that is a good move. So that, where are you from? Which department are you from?
Sir, I'm from BUET. I got my graduation from BUET, and I am working at BUET. In the Chittagong University in Engineering Technology as a lecturer here.
All right, very good. Okay, anybody wants to share his experience? If not, let me go back. Okay, so when your paper is reviewed and the editor thinks that it can be accepted after revision, then he will send it to you. And when you get the comments from the reviewer, at the first sight, you may think that these are too harsh, these are too negative. So in that state, don't ever write any reply. You just put it for a separate day, it's a few days, and then look at it again. When you come down, because otherwise, when you look at some of the comments, it may be too harsh and you may become angry. And don't do anything while you are angry. So you calm down and then look at it again. You may feel that it's not as bad as when you saw it for the first time. So you take your time, you talk with your supervisor, and then prepare for the response to the reviewers or referees. They are also called referees. And when you prepare a response for the referee, you have to prepare a point by point. You cannot miss anything. So whatever comment they make, you have to write your response to each of them. If you agree with their comments and changed your manuscript accordingly, you mention that we agree, thank you, and this is what we have done. Give reference to the page number and line number of your manuscript so that he can easily go there and then verify that you have done that. There could be some points where you do not agree. You find that the reviewers are not correct and you don't want to change it. If that is the case, if you have a lot of confidence in this, then you can tell that I do not agree. Thank you for this comment, but I do not agree. Then you give the reason that I feel that these are the points, these are the reasons why your comments is not valid. So that's possible. Sometimes, let me just get rid of this ribbon. This comes back. Let me take my pen. Some authors, they think that they know the best and the reviewer doesn't know. They're stupid, so they're making all wrong comments. but that is not the right approach. If the reviewers could not understand it, this means that there are some problem in the paper. And it's our responsibility as the writer of the manuscript to make it more clear, to put a lot more efforts in the writing, in the presentation, so that the thing that we want to say is easily understood by a reader. In some cases, you may have to do some additional tests, additional experiments in order to give support to your conclusion, in order to generate some additional data which is necessary for the conclusion. So if that is the case, then you have to go back to the lab and carry out some focused experiments in order to get rid of the deficiency of the paper that the reviewers have highlighted. While you respond to the reviewers, don't take them personally. We have to be respectful all the time, because after all, these are experts in your area and they're giving their efforts, their time for nothing. So they're not paid. So normally we are not paid when we do the review. So you have to be respectful to them. And of course, in our response, we have to be polite. In some cases, some reviewers may not be professional. They may unfairly treat you. They may make comment which is not valid scientifically. In such a case, you may write to the editor explaining your thinking, giving reasons, and then asking him to send it to another reviewer. In any case, you have to thank all the editors and the reviewers for giving their time, although they may have rejected your paper, but at least they have given their valuable time in considering your paper. So you have to be respectful and thankful to them. Sometimes it helps when you show the comment of the reviewer and your response to a friend who is neutral, who is not doing the work. They're outside your work. So they may look at it from a neutral point of view, and that helps. So that they can tell you that, yes, this is what reviewer said, and your response is not in line with reviewer's question. So can you change it in this fashion so that it is more appropriate and so on. So often this helps a lot. So you have to create a good group of friends around you if you want to be successful in your research. So for the revision, you have to consider that you don't necessarily have to make all the changes. If the changes are valid, then you have to make them. If few of them, one of them or two of them are not valid, then you have to come up with convincing argument. When you prepare the revision, these are the two important things that you have to prepare. First of all, you have to prepare the revised manuscript. And in that manuscript, you highlight the changes that you made with color, yellow color probably. And then you have to prepare another document where you give point-by-point response to the comments of all reviewers. There you highlight what are the changes made, giving reference to the page number and line numbers in the manuscript. And then if you have not made any changes, then you have to tell why. You have to convince them why you think you are correct and reviewers are not. Nowadays, this is a phenomenon that is happening because the Q1 journals, even Q2 journals and other major journals, they have far too many submissions compared to the number they can handle. So what they do, they put a gate at the beginning. So your manuscript may not even go to the editor. So in the editorial office, there will be some assistant who will look at your journal, your paper, and if the paper is having a lot of issues, then he will advise the editor to reject it right away. And that can be very quick. They can do it in 2, 3, 4 days nowadays. So what they will check for this direct in-house rejection, which means that they are not sending it to any reviewer. So they will say, if your paper is within the scope of the journal, so if it is outside the scope, then it will definitely be rejected. They will look at the format. They will see if English is acceptable, if it has got a minimum quality. If it is below that threshold minimum quality, then they will right away reject this paper, even though you may have done a good job. If the novelty is not clear, so pay a lot of attention to this. So you have to highlight what is new in the introduction. So you have to pay much attention while writing your introduction so that the novelty is very, very clear. And you also have to highlight that in the cover letter, because if the novelty is not clear, then the editorial assistant may just tell the editor that I didn't find any novelty, and it's done. So editor may not even read it, or it can be read by some assistant editor or associate editor or so on. And this kind of rejection is common nowadays, and it's very fast. Another point is, if it is not clear, what is the impact of your paper? What is the benefit? What is the significance of your paper? If these are not clear enough. So once you pass all of this, so your paper is not wrong format, your language is good enough, novelty is okay, impact is okay, then they will send it to the reviewers. And reviewers now will give their report. And in that report, they may accept or they may reject. And they may reject based on this. It's not technically and scientifically good enough. The motivation of the work is not clear. Why you have done the work? You were not able to identify the research problem. The paper is not clear enough about what exactly you are doing. The novelty is not clear. So even though it may pass the in-house scrutiny, but the reviewers may object that the novelty is not clear. Conclusions are not supported by data. So you have to be very careful about each and every section of your result, of your manuscript. The results are not so interesting, not so important. You may find some ethical issues in your work. Presentation is not clear. So you may ask yourself, if it is rejected, shall I ask the editor to appeal, to reconsider my case? Usually it doesn't work nowadays. It may work in some cases, but I think then you are just wasting your time asking for the second time the editor to look into it. You better pay attention to improve your paper based on the comments given by the reviewers, and then send it to another journal. Whatever response you write to the editor, to the reviewer, through the editor, of course, you may not be happy, but you have to give them their due thanks, because they have done the job without anything, without taking anything from you. It's free. Now, as for the reviewers' comments, expect that you will get the comments from reviewer. It's common. Even the Nobel laureate, they get their papers rejected. And there are many, many examples. So a few examples which are well documented. So the same paper, when they send it first, it was rejected. then they published it in another paper, another journal. And based on this, they got their Nobel Prize. So think about it. So when you get any rejection, don't blame yourself, don't worry. Just keep the focus, try to improve as much as you can and send it to another journal. And you may have submitted a manuscript like this. Be prepared. This manuscript may need to have a lot of changes. And at the end of these changes, your manuscript may look like this. You may have to add something new. You may have to modify something, and so on. I think I will not go into much detail now. So I have to make you aware of this group of journals, predatory journals. There are many, many journals which are currently being published. And these journals are not managed or published by ethical persons. So these journals are managed and published by persons who are motivated by money. And they just want to earn money, and they are ready to take up any unethical means. And Jeffrey Beal is a librarian in the University of Colorado in Denver. So he first coined this idea, this word, predatory journal. So they are there to eat you, to take things out of you. And they will trick you in many ways. They will send, once you publish anything or present anything, so these are all captured nowadays digitally in the internet. So they will gather all the information and they will start writing to you through email, which doesn't cost, obviously, and asking you to publish your journal. Is there anyone who received any such invitation in this class? Is there anyone who received this invitation? Can anyone confirm? How about Sagar? Because you have published already in IEEE. Was it Sagar? I forgot his name. Yes, Sagar. Yes, Abu Sagar. Did you get any invitation from some journals?
No, sir. I have not published yet. I have not yet published it in any journals.
Okay, all right. But you will, because sometimes even the IEEE proceedings, so these are all recorded. So you may receive some in the future, in the near future. But when you receive such invitation, you have to be very careful. And particularly, they want to target researchers from developing countries because many of them are new. They don't have much idea about this trap. So this is very, very important for us. So all of you, I think it's very important that you understand there are some predatory journals which will try to trick you to publish in their journals. And those journals are of very low quality. They will even tell you lies. They will tell you that this is of high impact factor and so on and so forth. And these kind of journals, they have some characteristics. They practically do not do any peer review. So they will not check the quality of your paper. So they will accept your paper.
Yes, sir. Many times I receive this kind of email that they want me to publish in their journal.
Yes, yeah, that I can understand. So they will do to all of you whenever you publish something, or if you are working in a university, they will collect your email and so on. So once they say that it is accepted, then they will start to get money out of you. They will tell you that this has got this much fee. If you don't give the fee, then we will not publish, etc. And they are very aggressive. So they will write you emails one after another. And they will also list, they will look like a genuine journal. So they will find some, you will find some good websites where they will show some editorial boards of some famous people, but often they don't get any permission from them. So they are just tricking you. And they will also show some editorial boards consisting of famous people, but actually it's just fake. And sometimes these even do not have any physical existence. So they will show you some false location, some location in the United States or in England. But however, they may not exist physically. They may be publishing it on the websites from China, from India, from Pakistan, and so on. So you have to be very careful, and they may have shown you some impact factor which is non-existent. So you really have to talk with your supervisor and select the right journal. And of course, you can avoid those by targeting journals which are in Web of Science or Scopus. So, but of course, even some of them will act as if they belong to Scopus or Web of Science, but they will fake things. So you have to be extremely careful. So if you publish things in these databases, so probably you are safe. This Beale, the librarian, used to publish a predatory journal list in the past, but I think he discontinued. He is too old nowadays. But I show you some of the title of the journals and you will be tricked really. So you see American Scientific Publisher. So that tells you that probably it's a good journal because that is what we have in our mindset. And you may be convinced, but actually this is just fake things floating on the internet. Similarly, if you look at the journals, sometimes so they show British Journal of Science. So some inexperienced authors like you who are new in this field, so they may be easily tricked by this. So please be careful right from the beginning so that you do not fall in this trap. Always talk with your supervisor. So let me summarize. I think we are towards the end of today's lecture. As for submission to the journal, you must have novelty and significance written in a very clear way. You have to do it in the introduction. You may highlight the novelty and significance towards the end of your abstract. You have to do it in the cover letter. And the good paper means you have done good science, your writing is good, and you're published in good journals with high impact factor. Good science means you have in-depth discussion, you have novelty. Good writing means it's a good English, good flow of language, flow from one paragraph to another, clear logical arrangement of issues. So you have to put a lot of effort in good writing as well. You send it to appropriate journal, extremely important. The cover letter, don't neglect it. It has got a lot of value. So you prepare the cover letter first, where you highlight the novelty, you highlight the significance, and also you tell why this paper fits into the journal, show it to the supervisor, and then update it and then submit. Be aware of this predatory journal. Never ever publish anything in those predatory journal. If you have any doubt, please talk to your supervisor. When you deal with the reviewers, you have to think again that novelty and significance are critical issues, like the editor. So you have to convince them. And consider that revision is a part of your life. You can never get, almost never get a paper accepted without any revision. It doesn't happen. So revision will be there. Be prepared for this and then do the job properly. You may get a lot of criticism. That is also part of the life of a scientist. And let me just check this. And don't blame yourself for that. So you do it professionally and then respond to the criticism in a scientific way. And always aware of the predatory journals. So with this, I think I'm done for today. And let us have a look. So I have how many days? 2 days left. But probably what I can do, I can spend a part of one day looking at your manuscript if you want. So that is possible. And I guess Rashid was suggesting this last time. So Rashid, have you been able to find any manuscript that the author would like to discuss here? Rashid?
Yes, sir.
So I think that was a good suggestion. Do you think that there is any manuscript available from one of you which we can discuss?
So I have manuscript, but in my device now I can't share it here.
Okay, so in that case, if there is none, I think that is fine. Then I have to continue my talk. But if anybody would like to share, then that is possible. Okay, any question? No question, yeah. So thank you very much and see you next time. And when is our next class, Rashid?
So next Saturday at 3 p.m.